Welcome back to the podcast. Today's conversation is with the brilliant Jessica Clark, author of How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss. It's a boss move, isn't it, to quit alcohol? It's the most powerful thing I think you can do when you've got the courage to turn around and walk in the other direction to the mass, the throng of people that are still drinking. And we're going to pull all of those concepts apart. We deep dive into so many wonderful topics, inspirational moments, as well as those practical tools and tips to stay on this alcohol-free adventure. You're going to love this one today with the incredible Jessica Clark. Before we begin, just a quick note to the sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Authentic Brew, which is my drink that is a health and wellness, pure, no compromise, Mother Nature-based goodness that is transforming the world of the drinks industry. This is functional drinks at its best. Functional means that you get an extra lift outside of the healthy ingredients. There is no compromise. There's nothing like it. It's world first, world class. Go to authenticbrew.com. And the reason I got involved is because 25% of all net profits go to rewilding people and places, environmental causes. Not only is it great for you, it's great for the planet. Come on, let's go. And also my Coach Business School. This is what I do best, is train the new wave or next wave of incredible life coaches, executive coaches, alcohol-free performance coaches. If you're interested in coming with me on that adventure, go to coachbusiness.school. All right, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation with the brilliant Jessica Clark. Jessica, welcome to the Show and Run, the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You are our first ever guest that is not someone that I already knew, that's sort of part of our world.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So it's our first time to meet today, which is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I said to you, why I wanted to start this podcast in person was to spend just time in conversation with people like yourself and get to know you and hear your story in the real world, because I think there's something special about that.
Absolutely. It's so much nicer to do it in person. So again, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, so grateful. So I really appreciate it.
So let's talk about your book.
Yes.
How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss.
Yes.
I love the title straight away.
Thank you.
And it just resonated with me. I really like titles of books. You can see many books on the shelf there. I think that is what first draws you to a book. And it had that energy of, this is a good thing. We're not missing out on something. This is, let's go. We're like a boss. Let's boss this thing. And,
absolutely.
And become the person that we, could always become by taking a break. So let's just start there.
Yeah,
How did you quit like a boss?
So I've been alcohol-free for 2 years.
Get in there.
Yes, and it's been the best 2 years of my life.
Really?
But really, I've absolutely loved it. Of course, it's, it had its challenges to begin with, as I'm sure we'll get into, but overall, it's just been the best decision I've ever made. And it's just wonderful. And I thought, a year ago, probably actually 6 months in, I thought, okay, I've already seen this has benefited my life in so many ways. What can I do to also, give back to others as well? And I just started writing How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss as like a bit of a side project. And whilst writing it, it was also a bit of self-discovery for me as well. And I was learning so much about myself whilst writing it. And I really wanted to write something that people could resonate with, that was just from my own experience. And, it's not the longest book, but I think if you are someone and you are sober curious and, you're kind of thinking maybe you'd like to go alcohol free, I think it's a great start in place, because it just gives you a bit of a taster into what could happen, what challenges you could face, how you could deal with it, but also how it can change your life in so many ways as well. And I stumbled across the title. I think it just came to me and I was like, I love this. I feel like you need boss energy when you are going into alcohol free world. That's it, is that
boss energy, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
Like there's something exciting about that. And for me, that's what really changed my whole life and my relationship with alcohol. At first, it was very doom and gloom. All the literature, there just wasn't a lot around. I mean, I'm going back 12, 13 years ago now. There was nothing for me.
I was going to say, I can imagine.
There was no alcohol-free alternatives. There was no social media. It wasn't a thing in terms of what we have now. There was no really books that spoke to me either. They were very much memoirs about the typical crash and burn, horrific addiction. And I thought, that's just not me, right? That's just not my story. I was in the middle lane and wanted to change my relationship with alcohol. And even my favourite book, which was Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, which I love, is still a memoir in essence around a full-blown addiction that turned into this really positive thing. So I was sort of, clambering, grasping for something that felt positive. And then
Yeah.
I read a brilliant book that's on the shelf over there called Kick the Drink Easily by Jason Val.
Yeah.
And I loved that book. It was the first book I ever read that went, what are you giving up? There's nothing to give up and everything to gain.
Change your mindset around it.
And that was it. That was it. My mind just lit up and went, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
The first time ever. Maybe I can look at this differently. Maybe actually by not drinking, I'm going to gain all these advantages.
Yeah,
I didn't really know what they were at the time.
Yeah.
So again, as soon as I read your title, it's like, go on, girl. Let's like boss it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you thought so, because that's kind of what I wanted to put across.
Good.
Yeah.
So your story begins into this. Is it
Yeah.
in your 20s that you came to this?
I would say I've known for a very long time. I grew up in Bristol, and I think very similar to most places in the UK, you know, drinking is such a big part of our culture and our upbringing that you kind of don't know any different in a way. So I was a social drinker probably from around the age of 15, you know, and it sounds crazy to even think about that now when I look back. But even back then, I knew, even kind of going out with my friends and things and, you know, just socially drinking, that my relationship wasn't quite the same as other people's, you know.
What was different?
I think I just didn't have this off switch that other people seem to have, and people seem to be able to call it a day, whereas I didn't want to. You know, I was like, I just wanted to keep going, and I think I knew it, but it wasn't loud enough for me to actually do anything about. I think the more I ignored it, the more it got worse. And going into my early 20s and moving to London, that was when it really, you know, I think fueled this issue, because suddenly I could go out any day of the week, you know, after work, and there would always be someone who would want to go out, or, you know, someone would say, let's go for a drink, and yeah, why not? You know, we're in this new vibrant place, you get a bit excited. And I think that didn't help anything. And my relationship with alcohol just got more intense, in the sense that I'd still classed myself very much in this middle lane. I wouldn't say I was fully dependent on it, but I think if you are someone who socially drinks often, I think there is a level of dependency there, and I think you have to be honest with yourself and admit that as well.
There's that psychological dependence, I call it, rather than physiological.
Yes,
you need
I agree.
it in your system to function. But the thought of functioning socially, for example, without it,
it's terrifying.
People are like, what? No way. There's no way I could do the Christmas party.
Absolutely. Dance.
The works.
Dance sober?
Dancing,
Gosh, no.
How's that going to happen? And as someone that has danced sober many times before, it's still not pretty.
No, it's not.
It's not nice fantastic to look at, but I can do it. And they're like brilliant hurdles to overcome, aren't they? Because you tell yourself these untruths. And I always liken it, sometimes I'm doing a talk to, you know, a keynote type talk. There's a lot of people in the audience. And one of my almost mind exercises for people is, let's just say in this audience, 1,000 people, right? The bulk are probably in the middle lane, same as me, not in that excessive end or not abstinent. So pretty much most of the audience. Now, just run this as a mind experiment. If you had to quit now, tomorrow, for 90 days, how do you feel about that? And I'll guarantee the bulk of that audience have sensations of fear and are thinking, oh, well, what about the wedding,
chance I couldn't do that.
the 40th, the stressful day, the mum's night out, whatever.
Absolutely.
Like instantly. Therefore, I think if your heart even skips a beat, that for me demonstrates there's something going on at a psychological level.
It's got this hold on you for some reason.
It's got you in its grip. It's tighter for different people, but essentially almost the whole of that audience, alcohol has them in their grip. Otherwise they should be able to say, of course I can do that. It's not a problem.
It shouldn't even impact.
It shouldn't even be a heart. The heart shouldn't flutter, be like, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But the truth is, barely anyone can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing for me that was, I had a conversation once and somebody said to me, you don't seem like someone who would have an issue with alcohol. And I think that kind of stuck with me, because I thought, well, what does that even look like, you know? And I think that I think struck a chord in me to say that I need to be using my voice, you know, to actually be, you know, that person that people can relate to, because there's so many people who are like me, and I think we hide things a lot of the time because we don't want to, you know, come across as, you know, we have issues. But I think everyone struggles, and alcohol impacts everybody in such a different way. And I think so many people have a problem with alcohol but don't necessarily want to admit it because there's such a level of shame associated with it, when in reality there shouldn't be shame associated with it. You know, this thing is effectively bottled poison. Like, let's be honest, you know, it shouldn't be something that, you know, it's supposed to be destructive. That's what, you know, that's what it's kind of set out to do. It's not I suppose if you look at it in that respect, there shouldn't be any shame associated with you saying, actually, this doesn't serve me at all. And it's actually limiting me in so many ways. But I think until you take a step back and actually remove it, it's really difficult to see that. And it's really difficult to actually see how much it can benefit your life in so many ways.
And we get entrenched in those beliefs. And, you know, trillions of dollars of marketing doesn't help with that situation.
No,
and even the subtle things that really upset me, which I'm not a fan of at all, are things like drink responsibly. And that is a slogan from the alcohol industry, right? And the alcohol industry has a vested interest in selling more of its product. They have thought long and hard about that slogan. And I would say there's been millions of dollars gone into research around that slogan, because what does it imply? It puts all the onus back on you. It says, we've got this brilliant product. It's amazing. Yeah. You can have as much of it as you like.
Heavily addictive, may I add.
It's a highly addictive toxin. But by the way, if you have too much of it, that's your fault, not ours. Because we've created this amazing product that's just so fabulous. It's your responsibility. Like those subtle subconscious slogans that we pick up on feed that shame. It's like, oh, well,
it's actually down to me now, because I'm the problem. You know, I'm the one who's taken it too far. And I think that's something I've actively been trying to voice, is that actually there's nothing wrong with you. You know, it's not you. It's lots of people have this issue, and alcohol is doing what it's supposed to do. You know, it's an addictive substance. So if it makes you feel good, if it gives you that dopamine hit, of course you're going to want more of it, and you're going to rely on it for that dopamine. When you remove it, you have to put that reliance on yourself, and then you find other ways to get that dopamine. And, you know, you find it through, a lot of the time, through health and fitness, because you have more energy. And you suddenly realize that you actually don't need to depend on things. You know, you're more than capable of making yourself feel good and making yourself feel energized without it. But I think even having a break is so impactful. You know, I think a lot of the time people think, if I have a break and then I return to drinking, that I've failed and, you know, I've let myself down. When in reality, those breaks are so important. I had so many breaks throughout my 20s where I was like, oh, I'm going to stop drinking. A few weeks would go by and I would be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm fine now. You know, I'm fixed. I can go back. Yeah.
I'm sure you, like me, I would get to 2 weeks and go, do you know what? I've been a really good boy.
Yeah.
I haven't done that drinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to celebrate by having the very thing
that's made me feel so terrible.
And now I feel awful. Now, what? That is just so twisted, isn't it? And
it is so twisted. That stuff
all the time. And I think that's when you start, I definitely found that a bit worrying. It was a bit like, why am I doing that?
Yeah. Asking yourself the why. Yeah. I think it's, if you take a step back and actually think, what am I benefiting from doing this? You know, why am I actually doing this? And I think you'll find you really struggle to actually answer that. And I think people's initial response would be, because it's fun. But is it fun? Because I don't really remember much fun, you know, and I've tried long and hard to think of some memories where I've actually had an amazing time. But I think as someone who sits in the middle lane, who does steer more so on the side of taking it that little bit too far, the next morning, all you can think about is anxiety and, you know, you doing something stupid, or, you know, you have taken it too far and you feel awful. So it just really, I suppose, counteracts any fun that you even would have had, because you can't remember it a lot of the time either. So it's like, actually, I've had way more fun being at events, just being authentically myself, dancing, having genuine conversations with people. And it's just, if I asked myself 3 years ago if I thought I could be someone who could go to an event and dance sober, I would have thought, you must be mad, you know, I can't do this. And actually it's the best thing ever, you know, you're so grateful and you're so
free,
present,
aren't you? There's no pretense.
No,
it's
absolutely.
You authentically, you showing up, throwing yourself into those activities. And you know, just winding the clock back a little bit there around that fun factor. It's like this thing that, again, the stories that we tell, we tell stories around alcohol that it's fun, but like you say, when you do the reflective work, is it really? And I think if most people that are probably listening to this conversation now are listening to it for a reason, are probably like you and I, if you do that maths, you'll realise, actually, it's not fun in the way that maybe you told yourself it was fun in your teens or early 20s. You
convinced yourself that it was.
So you keep that story and you keep replaying it into your late 20s and 30s or 40s and beyond, and realise, actually, on reflection, it's not fun anymore. Like plonked in front of the TV on a Tuesday night, having a glass of wine, Is that fun?
Yeah.
Is it fun when you get over emotional or say things you never normally ever would? Is that fun?
Totally out of character.
Yeah.
And go against everything that, you see yourself as, or,
and you wake up the next day with that shame, regret. Is that fun?
Yeah.
You miss out on the opportunity to move your body or connect with people in a different way. Is that fun? I mean, literally, if you think about all the fun
if you
things,
ask those questions, and you really, I think that's such a key part of it, is to actually just ask yourself a couple of questions and to say, is this really benefiting me? Like, if I had to be totally honest with myself, and is this who I want to be? Does this really impact me in the best way? And do I actually enjoy myself, or do I feel like I just have to do this because it's all I've ever known and the people around me are doing it, so I feel like I have to? But I think what I would love to, I suppose, more people to see is that it's okay to do something a little bit different if you feel like that's going to benefit you. And I think not showing up for yourself and not, having faith in yourself to go and say, actually, alcohol isn't serving me anymore, I'm just going to have a break, is the strongest thing you can do to go against, everything you've known and, your friendship group. If you are doing something slightly different, but in turn, you are setting the precedent for them. And I think, again, it's mindset and changing your mindset around these things and seeing it so much more as a positive than you missing out and being the victim. It's actually, no, I have this amazing opportunity to go and do the things that actually matter to me, be the person I want to be, I want to become. And also I can inspire others as well. So it's like, I don't see what you're missing out on by giving yourself that break, and life is so fun without alcohol. And I've seen that so much, especially within the last year. I think you become the person that you've always wanted to be, or at least you give yourself the chance to, without the distraction of alcohol. I think it just holds you back in so many ways, but it doesn't give you much in return. And I think
so true.
Yeah.
And I liken it to a fun sponge, is the truth. I think it mops up all the joy all around you, not only in the moment, but the next day and the day after that and the day after that. And then we remove it and we realise, actually life was so much fun without it. Or we get caught in that cultural trap of the text the following day, which I always go on about, but it's so true because I was guilty of that for years. Where everyone gets together in this little club and we all lie to each other to continue with the behaviour that's no longer serving us. Everyone gets together in their WhatsApp group or their messaging group or whatever it is the day after those few drinks in the week and sends a message along the lines of, great night. No one's ever sent a message to any of those groups saying, actually, that night was shit. I feel awful. I've got anxiety.
It's a bit of a facade, today. Isn't it? That we all seem to.
So we all lie together.
Yeah.
Because none of us can face the truth that some of us got home last night, really upset our partner. Some of us are going to be terrible at our job today.
Yeah, fell over, bruised and damaged and
battered,
broken and
grumpy, underperformed, skipped the gym,
hating yourself, speaking to yourself so negatively.
Who's putting that message into the WhatsApp group?
Oh gosh, nobody's putting that one in there.
But if only they would. And I think it goes back to your point you just made. There's something so empowering about having the courage to be different, to be authentic and true to you, even though all of your friends, Matt Pink talks about it a lot. When you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. And I think
that's a wonderful way.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And when you're in it, you can't see it.
No, you cannot.
It is a great night, and you go, great night, even though you're thinking to yourself.
Just kind of, I suppose, jump on to the...
You've got to pretend. It's cognitive dissonance. You know you're feeling pain. You know you're anxious. You know you've got regret. You've got to try and mediate that somehow to justify the behaviour.
And you're also feeling anxious and insecure, so you're looking for that approval from your friends as well, because you're feeling empty, you have a void, so you want to join in, you want to be part of it, because you need that comfort as well, because alcohol's made you feel so terrible that it's almost that you're latching on to any, I suppose, comfort and warmth and positivity, which is just joining on to what others are saying.
I think that's why people need to keep you drinking as well. So I wanted to ask you about that. How did you find the social pressure? So you're becoming this beacon of change, let's say, the courage. And I always liken it to this. It's like the mass of people, the throng are walking one direction, and you had the courage to turn around and walk the other. I mean, that is really, really impressive. And I think there's a real energy and an attraction to that. But did you meet with much social pressure? Were people a bit like, come on, Jess, get back in here with us? Or what were they like?
A little bit, I suppose. Not looking back, not as much as I actually thought I would. I think, especially when your loved ones know that obviously this isn't serving you well and it's not impacting you. So I think they're very supportive. But I think with that, obviously it does highlight to other people, people do just automatically reflect on their own relationships with alcohol. If you are someone who had a similar pattern and they see that you've stepped away, automatically there is that reflection, and it is uncomfortable. So I think I did feel quite isolated at first, but looking back, I think that was more out of choice. I spent a lot of time alone because I just really wanted to I suppose, process what was going on. And I spent a lot of time running and listening to podcasts. And I found so much comfort in that because there wasn't really anybody around me who could understand truly how I felt, especially on the inside. But I found listening to sobriety podcasts was so special because I was listening to people who had similar situations to me and similar stories. And it just made me find a community that I didn't have necessarily in my kind of immediate social group. And I think with that, I've flipped the switch, and I'm finding that I'm helping people without realizing it. And I think that's the biggest change, is that yes, I may have a small online community, but you still get 30 or so people reach out to you and confide in you. And I know how that feels to not have that person. So I think that's encouraging me to want to do just as much as I can, because I'm like, as one person, you have more impact than you realize on change. I think a lot of the time we think, because we are just one person, what difference can we make? But I just completely don't agree with that. I think as one person, you can impact so many people in so many ways, because you are the change that they need. You need to be that person to step outside to show that you can live differently. And when you start getting people reach out to you, it just shows that you're helping people. And I think that feeling is just, nothing compares. It's just wonderful.
It's the greatest buzz you'll ever get. It beats a buzz from alcohol a million times over. And that was my lived experience of it. The second that started to happen, all those years ago, my life changed forever. Yeah. It was like, oh, actually, this is helping people. Your purpose
completely changes.
Yeah, it was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. I want to be in a position where you get to give back and contribute, whether that's through business or just showing up. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. And we need more people, especially like yourself. It's so great to see that you're young.
Thank you. Not as young as I used to be, might add.
As opposed to myself now, in stepping into my 50s. It's lovely to see, you coming through to inspire different generations, right? Because I'm sure there's, 20-somethings looking at me going, it's easy for him. Whereas it's much nicer for them to be able to identify with someone like yourself that is going through similar things to them and being so vibrant. But it feels like the world is changing.
I also agree. And for a while I thought, is this just because I'm investing more of my time focusing on, health, well-being and sobriety? But I agree. And I think it's changing quite rapidly, and it's so wonderful to see. I think I read something and it said, I think I don't like saying figures because I always get them wrong, but I think it was 90%. There's been a 90% increase in alcohol-free events. And I think that tells you, people are interested, people aren't relying on alcohol as much for one. And I also I put together this like an alcohol-free guide for alcohol change a couple of weeks ago. And it really opened my eyes as to how many options there are alcohol-free alternatives. And that also tells you there is a market for it. And I think it is changing, and I just love to see it, because I think the more authentic and genuine you can be and connect with people that way in a world which is going the opposite way with AI and, systems and us trying to escape kind of our feelings and personality, seeing so much kind of forcing authenticity and just, connecting on a real human level is amazing. And I'm so here for it. I'm so happy to be a part of this movement.
And you mentioned authentic and authenticity and drinks there. We have our drink, Authentic Brew, which you came across
which
without
I love. I did. I can confirm. Yes. You did not persuade me by any
did not force it upon you as soon as you entered the house.
No, it's again fantastic. I said to you earlier, there was something about it that just really caught my attention, and it just stands for everything that I suppose I've been looking for in a functional energy drink, and it's so good for you and it has so many health benefits. And I think that really is the future. You can feel good without something that's so destructive. You can feel good without it having that negativity on you. So,
and I love, and the world has changed, not only drinks, but even when I see these morning gatherings, I've seen some brilliant ones lately, like
they're amazing,
in Australia,
aren't they?
which I loved. And I lived in Australia for a while, and there's like thousands
Yeah.
of what looks to me like young people, like 20s,
thriving
30s,
and
like buzzing. It's like the 5 a.m. sunrise club, the 5 a.m. swim rise club. No alcohol.
It's
They're
so
like all these
epic.
incredible people connecting. I could imagine relationships forming.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the pub. You know, and I dial back to my time in Bondi and Australia, again, was dominated by English and Irish predominantly. Just this massive booze culture. No one was ever up at 5 a.m. in the morning, ever.
No.
Or going running or doing any of those relatively healthy things, it felt like. Whereas now you can see that growing momentum. I want to be part of that. Do you know what I mean?
I almost booked a flight when I saw it. You know, I was like, I would love to be a part of that. You know, take me back to Australia, because that, you know, that it just looked. I think I saw the same thing.
You must have done it. It was great, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the whole beach was just vibrant,
just teeming of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the world is going. It's about authentic connection, and that's why we're doing this. You know, it's so lovely to have you in the room, just having a great conversation.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to be here. Me too.
It's cool,
absolutely.
Isn't it? I want to talk about your book as well, specifically.
Yeah.
And I've read through the book, and there's basically 8 phases to the book.
Yeah.
We won't cover them all, but there was a couple that I really wanted to look at. I need to get you to sign this book as well for me.
No, absolutely.
It was phase 3 and 5. Let's go to phase 5. Phase 5. That's easy for me to say, isn't it? Phase 5. Which is around financial awakening.
Yes.
Because I think this is a really interesting topic that gets completely
100%.
overlooked by people. And maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that piece of the book.
Absolutely. I think financial wise, obviously, you know, talking about your finances is the big fat elephant in the room. You know, nobody wants to do that. But I think when you remove alcohol, you suddenly realize how much of your finances have been taken up with this, and you're not even realizing it a lot of the time. You know, I think having those just couple of drinks after work at the pub, and then, you know, it's not just that, it's everything that follows that as well. You know, it's you go for one, but then it's not one, and you stay there, you know, all night. So then you end up getting an Uber home, and then you order something rubbish to eat to make yourself feel better. And then the next day, when you're hungover, you order something rubbish again to make yourself feel better. And all of these costs just really add up. And I think we always seem to, find the time to put money aside for alcohol or something, you know, that does, I suppose, fuel our dopamine hit, I guess. But when you remove it, and you have all this kind of free cash, and, you know, you can save so much more. And I think that was such a big eye-opener for me when I removed alcohol, that actually I realized how reckless I was being with my spending. But at the time, I just didn't notice it, because alcohol was giving me that, you know, that release I needed and that dopamine hit. So it was kind of autopilot that it's money well spent, but when you look back, it's not. And you can use that money to do other things. You know, you can use it to save, or you can use it to, you know, go do trips, and just, it really does reverse, I think. And that was very eye-opening for me, for sure, that actually, you know, it does impact your finances a lot more than you realize. You know, those drinks at the pub really do add up. And it's even going for dinner, you know, all of the wine and the cocktails and these things. When you don't have that, suddenly going for dinner is much more reasonable and more enjoyable.
It's funny, because obviously my Tara drinks, and I don't drink. I haven't drunk for many, many years.
Yeah.
But it's really obvious every now and again. And this, I'm going back about 3 or 4 years now, but we went to a hotel in London called the South Place Hotel. It's near Liverpool Street. And we sat down, we were in a bit of a rush. We just had, you know, a quick drink in between. We were going somewhere. So I ordered sparkling water. Tara had a glass of wine. That's all it was a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I'm one of those that, you know, spends ages looking over at the receipt and the bill and all that kind of thing. But anyway, we literally were in a rush, so we quickly almost guzzled these drinks, right? We were barely there 5 or 10 minutes. Can order the bill. Bill came out, and it was something outrageous, like £27.
Oh, gosh.
And I was just thinking, 27, that can't be right. And I looked at, there's like 2 entries. There's like my sparkling water, which is like £2, glass of wine. And it was just like house.
It's extortionate.
Wine. And this was going back 3 or 4 years. I guarantee it's a lot higher than that now. I'm like, a glass of wine. That's 22, 3, 4 pounds for a glass of wine. Like, what value is that added? Absolutely none. Not at all. Zero. And I can imagine so many people caught in that. Like, we have this it's like a blind spot.
Yeah, it
to
really
alcohol,
is.
like the finances
we don't
around
think
it.
about it. It's, you have I suppose there's this whole group of individuals who, even when we go on holiday, we get excited and we're at the airport and, it's 6 a.m. and you order beers, and it's just, it all kind of goes out the window when alcohol's involved, like any concept of value for money. And like cocktails, I was never really a cocktail person anyway. I never really saw the value in spending money on cocktails personally. I know it's like a wonderful craft and, there's a lot of expertise involved, but sometimes, you get something and it's this big and it's like £15 and you drink it within 2 seconds. And I'm just like, is that really worth it? I just don't really, I suppose more so now being alcohol free, I'm like, it just feels even more of a waste of money. And you can't tell people how to, I suppose, live their life. If people want to do that, they want to do that. But it's actually, again, just asking yourself, is this really a good use of my spending? What am I actually benefiting from here? Just to wake up the next day feeling rubbish, not even remembering anything. And you're now 100 quid down or whatever, the rest, and it's just that, again, one of the many benefits of going alcohol free. Your finances improve. I
see it. Andy Garwood, one of my good friends, has been on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think he equated, it was about £10,000 a year.
Wow.
Which seems extremely excessive.
Yeah.
But I'd argue there are people at that level.
If not more, I would say sometimes.
That are entertaining, that are drinking, whether it's wine or going to restaurants where all the, obviously the prices are much higher. And then you remove it, it wasn't far off like £1,000 a month, which is, so over, he's 7 years now, it's like £60,000, which is insane. And I know as a little, thought experiment when I'm with really young people, it's like, would you like to earn £250,000? They'd be like, well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right. How? Now?
Yeah, I could do it. Really easy. Just don't drink.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old, just don't bother drinking.
And you're halfway there. Yeah.
And you're gonna have saved that over your drinking career easily.
Yeah.
So there it is. There's your house.
Yeah.
That people are struggling to get on the ladder for. I mean, and again, we're talking at sort of at the upper end. You could dial it all the way down to the cheaper end and supermarket drinks and wines and spirits and whatnot.
Again, there's very different values in terms of
but they still add up. That's the thing. Even those smaller spends that appear to be smaller spends, because I think people would say, "Oh no, well I only spend I get the occasional bottle of wine and it's cheap and cheerful out the Tesco's and it's £8 or whatever it might be," but then occasionally. Also, we'll forget with that blind spot that occasionally I do go to the pub and that wine is a lot more expensive, or occasionally I do go to a restaurant and it's a lot more expensive. It adds
up for sure.
And it all adds up. And then it's not just the actual alcohol, is it? It's the following day.
Yeah,
and
it's all of the things that follow that. Yeah. And I think, I suppose someone who has been this person, so I can speak about it, is that when I was drinking, I would happily spend that money on alcohol. But then if it came to something that would benefit my health, like, I think I mentioned it, like a ginger shot or a smoothie and, some
or
smooth...
authentic. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I would be like, oh, I'm not spending that. Like, what do you mean? And it's just so funny how alcohol has this, like, it can really, I suppose it can really, like, just completely change our vision on certain things, and it's just like
it's just a blind spot, isn't it? It's like I can imagine people walking down the shopping aisle and they're going, authentics, whatever it is, like all the sort of health drinks, turning their nose up. I'm not sure I'm going to invest in that. Literally next aisle, like pouring in,
raking in
wines,
the spirits,
not even consider the beers, ship those in. It's like you get those trolleys, people are just like, oh, and I've been this person, by the way, I'm always talking about myself.
Me too, and that's why we can speak about it,
It wasn't traps, isn't it? That or literally doing the same thing in a quick supermarket and then going, oh no, I don't know about that, and then going next door and ordering a pint, a glass of wine that they could have bought 10 of those drinks with. It's nuts.
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of it. Like when you're in it, you're so entrenched in those beliefs. That's why it takes courage to step outside. And that's why I love the book as well. Because it's all about, similar vein to me, it's like take a break, have a look at it. Because once you get outside that jar and you can read the label, you start to see your own nonsense and you catch yourself saying those things and just go, it's just not true. None of that stuff's true, which makes it much easier. And the longer you're outside the jar, you start to notice it in other people and you see it for what it is and think, what the hell was I doing?
It's really hard to then reverse that as well. I think once you've, I suppose, had that, let's say, awakening as to what alcohol really is, it's really hard to then try to see it any differently. And I think that it's my I suppose relationship with food has also changed a lot. And I think you invest, I suppose, your finances more wisely into just being a better version of you and eating healthier, and and it just really goes hand in hand. And I think that's why it is so powerful to remove it, because it's not just removing alcohol, it's completely changing your whole life if you want to, and just living a healthier, more abundant life that feels great and is happy. And I think I see so many people who feel really doom and gloom, and I know a lot of the time it's because they're drinking a lot. And I think you can't say that, of course, because it's also up to them what they do until they ask for, your advice and opinion. But I wish more people would just see that, if you remove this one thing, your life will it won't change overnight, but it will certainly change. And it's very impactful change. And once you experience that change, it's very hard to go back, because it's wonderful.
And what do you think about those people that are listening to this and they're like, I've taken a break, Jess, I've taken a break, Andy, and I still feel
it's not working. I feel a bit flat.
This is rubbish. Like, I'm not getting anything from this. And I see a lot of those type of comments and posts all the time. And when I do, I'm answering my own question, but then I'm going to play it back to you. There's a bit of me that I can see that's that old untrained brain trying to keep them stuck.
It's that chimp mentality, like, isn't it? It's
don't focus on all the benefits, focus on all the things that I'm missing out on. Oh, this is rubbish. Because really what they're trying to do is give themselves an easy out. I might as well have a drink, right? Because if life's a bit rubbish without drinking, I might as well drink, because at least it feels a bit better.
It's the less of two evils in a way, and
not look for the wins, actually, because the wins are always there. So I don't know if you've had a similar sort of experience to that.
Absolutely. I think in society we're so used to everything being so easy and so convenient, and I will say removing alcohol is the one thing that you do need to have a bit of patience for to see the results. But when you see those results, you'll understand why. You're changing your whole life, and you can't expect that to happen overnight. You need to give yourself patience. And as I mentioned earlier, having those little breaks is almost training your mind to see that actually it's safe for me to step away from alcohol. Brilliant. And it's not as scary as I thought. And that's why I want to encourage people to have those breaks, because even if you then go back to drinking, the next time you have a break, you'll see that you actually want to have a break for longer, because you've already built up that resilience slightly within you. And then when you do come to actually remove it properly, you're in such a good position, because you're like, actually, we've been here before, and it wasn't scary. And actually I feel better this time because I've built those foundations. And I think when you do, I think it's very easy to sit and say, I'm not seeing any results. I've given it some patience. I've given it a couple of months and life just feels boring. I think you have to actively want to make change in your life. I think you can't just remove alcohol and then suddenly think everything's going to get better. You really have to commit to wanting to become the version of yourself that you want to be. And that's diving into new hobbies and being curious with your time, and going and reading things that you wouldn't necessarily read, or watching things online. And I think changing the things that you associate with, and especially on social media, because we spend so much time online, changing the things you watch can be so impactful to your life. And I think you have to actively want to improve other areas of your life. It doesn't just, you don't just remove something and, oh, I'm fixed, everything's sorted. You have to want to. And when you want to and you know your worth, everything else magically does start to improve, and it's just so wonderful. So I think anyone who is in that position, please be patient with yourself. You deserve to give yourself that patience. You would return to drinking multiple times. When you felt rubbish, you would go back drinking again. I always say, look at it in reverse. See being sober as you give yourself as many times as you need to go alcohol free, and watch how much resilience and kind of momentum you're building inside.
Brilliant. I love that. And it is about the foundational skill to look at every area of your life, isn't it? From
Absolutely.
Health to fitness to nutrition. And also think, we'll caveat here that sometimes alcohol is masking something underneath. It could be a depression.
90% of the time.
It could be an anxiety. It could be an unhappy marriage, an unhappy career, lack of meaning, purpose, all of those things. So when you remove it, it might be that actually for the first time in a long time, you get to feel what it's like to be truly you. And then,
which is uncomfortable as well, isn't it? There is this uncomfort of having to sit with ourselves, and not having that distraction, and, not running away from our feelings. But within having those uncomfortable conversations, you learn so much about yourself in the best way. And you actually start to love those parts of yourself because you sympathize with them and you know where they've came from. And I think when you remove this escape, the only thing you can do is face yourself, and it's the most rewarding thing in a way, because you actually start to appreciate every part of you as well, without getting too soppy, but you really appreciate, I look back at me from my early 20s and I'm just like, gosh, that's really all I knew at the time, and I did the best with what I could, but I now understand why. I understand so much more why I had that poor relationship with alcohol, because it was an escape and I was kind of masking things that I probably didn't want to deal with. But as soon as you deal with them, you're no longer afraid of them. You have nothing to escape because you've faced those parts of yourself.
What were those parts, if you're willing to talk about those?
Yeah,
before?
Of course. I think it was, I was very insecure for, I suppose, a very long time, especially in my teens and early 20s. And I think it was not feeling like I was worth more than, I suppose, what I was giving myself. And I think within those insecurities, I would turn to alcohol, and then also that was just making them worse. All these insecurities about having to look a certain way and having to be perceived a certain way, and realizing that actually the more I suppose I was drinking, and I was very much on kind of the social scene of London and also in my hometown, and realized actually this wasn't making me happy. I was looking for external validation in so many ways, and when I removed it, I realized I don't need that anymore. I think you have a bit of an ego death, I think, when you remove alcohol and you realize that you can use your talents and your skills to help other people rather than giving yourself a boost and having to look a certain way. And I think it's so powerful in just so many ways.
Yeah, it is so true. And I think also in and around this is that self-development and reading books and new podcasts and all the things that we start to bring into our world.
Yeah.
And then sometimes around that, I often say to people, it's the best platform if you do need to get additional support, help, and that could be medication, that could be therapy, that could be couples counselling, whatever it might be. But that foundation of alcohol-free is only going to serve you. It's never going to detract, in truth.
No,
it
absolutely.
Can't.
It's always going to benefit you.
It's always a benefit. And of course, we can tell ourselves stories that it's not, but in truth, I think most people know that. So I think it's giving yourself the courage and the confidence to stay in it and just do the work and enjoy being
changing your mindset around it is so important. I think that was the biggest shift for me, I think, is changing it from, it's not a lack by any means. Like, you're gaining so much from removing alcohol, and if you see it as, how can I use this time of being alcohol free to benefit me? What can I really do with this extra time I have to become this version of myself that I really want to be? Versus, I'm missing out, I'm the boring one in my friendship group, I'm not drinking. If you change your mindset to, actually, I get to go and, spend time with my friends, be authentically myself, remember it, and actually have genuine conversations and connections with friends that I probably haven't seen for a while. Because I think nowadays we are a bit more distant in terms of, we don't spend as much time in person. You really appreciate that time, and it's actually more fun because of that. I think it's changing your mindset as to, this can benefit me in so many ways, rather than it being something that's being taken away from you, because it's not, you're not losing anything from removing alcohol.
To give up and everything to gain.
Yeah.
Let's look at phase 3, because I thought this was interesting.
Yes.
Date yourself, like the rediscovery. I know we've sort of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just there, but tell me a bit more about that.
So this is so impactful for me. I know there is a bit of a lonely pandemic, so I know this isn't kind of for everyone, but again, it's your approach. I think spending time alone can be so powerful in so many ways. It certainly was for me. And I kind of saw dating yourself as me spending time alone, but out of choice, and wanting to go and get to know myself. Because I think that was the other part to it for so many years. I didn't really know who I was. I was kind of, I suppose, putting on a bit of an image of who I thought I should be, but it actually didn't feel like myself, and I didn't really know my true identity in a way. I took myself, after 1 year of being alcohol free, I took myself traveling for 10 months. Again, this isn't the approach for everyone. There's a very different way on my own.
Good on you. I love that.
And it was, again, amazing. It was the best thing I've ever done, but I appreciate not everybody can do that. And that's not an approach for everyone. There's other ways you can date yourself. I think even taking yourself for a coffee in the morning as a start and just spending that alone time. Because I think for a lot of people, even doing that feels a bit uncomfortable when you are so used to having people around constantly. And taking yourself out for breakfast, sitting there and just people watching or reading a book completely alone is so empowering. And again, you just have to, I think when you spend so much time alone, you have to have those conversations with yourself that you've been running away from. And spending 10 months alone, I had to have a lot of those kind of internal conversations. Yeah. But again, it was the best thing I ever did. And now I find that I'm intentionally spending so much time alone because I know by doing that, when I do connect with my friends and my loved ones, I am the best version of me. They get the best parts of me and they get the overflow of my cup rather than me just needing their kind of, me latching on to their, I suppose, comfort that they provide. So I think dating yourself is, it looks different to everyone. It looks like taking yourself on a trip. It looks like taking yourself, just for a walk. It looks like trying a new class, just doing things alone and putting yourself out there and not worrying, because it can be scary at first. It can be scary doing things completely alone, but it's so liberating. And you just get to figure out who you are without the world telling you to be someone, without that external validation.
So true. I liken it to the mirror test. Mm-hmm. And I was a little bit like this. And I've seen lots of people around me who were very much like this. Mm-hmm. They couldn't ever really slow down.
No.
They had to be with people. They had to be out.
Yeah.
Because actually the thought of being on their own was so horrific to them, because they knew if they're on their own for too long, they would start to ask themselves those questions.
Yeah.
And it's that mirror test. Can you look in the mirror and actually like what you see? And I'd say through my drinking career, it was rare that I could look in the mirror and like what I could see.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until alcohol was removed that you do learn to love yourself again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you actually realise this is all I've got. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? This is authentically me.
Yeah.
Much more introverted than I used to pretend to be through alcohol, which was much more extroverted. And actually then over time, and that is a process, and you can achieve that in loads of different ways, and that could be walking on your own, but there's real power in that. There's such an energy
much
behind
power.
it. It's like, this is it. This is all I've got. I don't have to pretend anymore. It's like liberation from the pretense.
Absolutely.
And I could never understand. I'd be like the person that would go out and entertain, because I was a big entertainer. That was my role as a broker. And I would literally turn into someone that was not me, alcohol-induced version of me. And I would
who you thought people wanted you to be.
They all loved that person. They didn't love the real me. They loved this, the extravagant.
I'm sure they would as well.
But that's what you tell yourself. And then I'd be really confused, because the night before, I literally would be swinging off the chandeliers, holding court. And I'd wake up the next day, and all I'd want to do is go home and read books.
You just feel empty.
Yeah, and people would look at me like, almost dance monkey dance kind of thing, and I'd be like,
where's Show Andy? Where's he gone? Yeah,
because I couldn't do it without alcohol, and that, I don't think you can underestimate the tug that has on you, like mentally, that constant confusion.
Absolutely.
Of who am I? Who do people really love? Because ultimately, underneath it all, we just want to be loved.
Yeah.
Do they love the 5 pints Andy, or do they love the really quiet guy that actually just wants to go home and read books?
But that's the version you love,
Exactly.
That's the one who feels, and that's where authenticity, and I'm so passionate about self-love and authenticity, because for a long time I looked outside of myself for external validation, and when you realise that everything you want to give yourself is already within you, and there's so much power in actually just realising how much control you have over your happiness. I think authenticity is so important, because if you can show the world who you really are, this is me, flaws and all, and I'm doing the things that I really believe in, I'm really passionate about. If people who have known you for a long time don't resonate with that, they may fall away, but you realize that you're actually okay with it, because you're being more yourself and you actually feel happy. I think I've realized, especially in the last couple of years, certain relationships have kind of fallen away, which is a very difficult thing to, I suppose, have to come to terms with. But it's also, if they're falling away when you are becoming more yourself, I don't know if that's a loss, because you're becoming more the person you want to be, who feels right to you and makes you happy. And in turn, the people who resonate with that version of you will gravitate towards you. So I think it does feel scary being authentic, but it's so powerful, and it will just make you feel inside so much happier. You don't feel like you're trying to portray someone you're not. You're just being who you are. And the people who also resonate or are on that kind of same level as you will find you. And it's amazing.
And I always say there's a real power in that. and people don't realise that.
No.
Showing up to an event, a social event, and not drinking is a really like powerful move.
Saying I don't drink, you know,
when everyone else needs to.
3 words, yeah.
And I think actually that in itself, it's really attractive.
Yeah.
And I don't mean on a romantic level, just on an energy level.
Yeah.
People gravitate towards that person. You want to spend time with that person. You can't always figure out why it is, but they've got an energy to them.
Yeah.
Because they're just happy.
And they're grounded in who they are.
Exactly that,
Yeah.
in who they are. They're not doing all the pretense that's whizzing around, you know, on those big social events. They're just grounded in that authentic version of themselves. That is attractive.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more people, I find I gravitate most to people who, like, they have these weird and wonderful kind of hobbies and they just embrace who they are. And I absolutely love that in someone, because I'm just like, it takes so much strength to just say, you know, I know this is different to what other people, you know, are doing and what is considered kind of socially acceptable, but it's who I am, and I love it. And I really gravitate towards people like that, because I'm just like, be your weird and wonderful self. Whatever makes you, go and do it. It's just the best, you know.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at phase 8, the final phase, as we sort of drift towards the close. Never look back. What do you mean by that?
So I see alcohol very much as it served a purpose for a long time in my life. I knew for a long time that I would remove it one day. I think I knew that from probably about the age of 16, 17. I had this internal knowing that I think one day, you know, me and alcohol are going to have to separate. We're going to have to part ways. It's just, it really was an internal voice for a long time. And I think never look back for me is seeing it more so as I've accepted that was part of my life, you know, that through all the hardship and challenges, I can close that door and be more excited about what's to come and the present and the future, rather than dwelling on that past too much. You know, I think you do have to take a deep dive in the past, and you do have to face those conversations as we spoke about. But once you've done that, there's no point living there anymore. You know, see who you can be, you know, all these things, get excited about, you know, what life can do for you, because life can be amazing. You know, life is so fun and it can be so exciting if you allow yourself to see it and don't dwell on things so much. So I think never look back for me is just alcohol served a purpose, and let's just move forward. Let's just, you know, see all the positives that are to come and what life can offer, because life's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And the key bit to me is alcohol did serve a purpose
it
at
did,
one point.
Yeah.
And it's not about going back and vilifying the past, right? Because that's just all of our wonderful
it's accepting
stories.
It, you know.
Exactly.
It's part of who you are. It's part of your identity.
Those memories that were there that might have been fueled by alcohol or not, we'll never know. But rather than going back and getting caught in the past, it's like, actually, this is just a new chapter. A new exciting chapter. We're going to experiment without alcohol and see where that takes us. And then who knows? It might mean that there's a life that doesn't contain any alcohol, or maybe there's long periods of breaks, but let's embrace this new chapter, this new exciting opportunity to love life.
Absolutely. And what I can do for myself right now, you know, what things can I do for myself to make myself happy? Because I'm realizing the more you can make yourself happy, the more you make everyone around you happy. Because I think positivity and feeling fulfilled is contagious. And again, you don't only benefit you benefit everyone else as well by having that mindset. So
wonderful. Jessica, you've been amazing.
Thank you.
Tell everyone listening where they can find out more about you, and obviously your book, so mention the title of that again and where they can get it.
Thank you so much. So my book's called obviously How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss. It's self-published. It's available via Amazon. I also have slowly growing online community called Jessica Sober Minds, which is an Instagram space, and it's all things alcohol free, but also mindset and positivity. And I just want it to be a safe space for people who maybe are questioning their relationship with alcohol and they need somewhere, you know, or someone to confide in. I'm very happy for people to reach out and message me. You know, I don't mind that at all. And see it more as, I suppose, positive and mindful change alongside removing alcohol, because I think the two are so entangled in so many ways. So yeah.
You're amazing. We did it.
We did. Thank you so much.
Good work, Jessica.
Thank you.
Wasn't that wonderful? Jessica's so fab. And as a younger person, I'm always just excited, not me being the younger person, Jessica being the younger person, just to be clear. I'm always excited to see this new wave coming through, inspiring different groups of people, and Jessica's certainly one of those. Not only is she wonderfully articulate and vibrant. She's just loving life on the fun side of the island, and I think that shines through and radiates in the messages that she brings. And don't forget to check out her wonderful book, How to Quit Alcohol Like a Boss. And before we break for our next episode, just a reminder, this episode was brought to you by Authentic Brew, which is my new wellness, Mother Nature based drink. You can get some direct at authenticbrew.com. Come and join the revolution. Not only is this great health for you, it's healthy for the planet. And if you're interested to come and train with me to learn the skills of becoming a coach, you can give back and contribute like Jessica is now and like I do to this day. Go to coachbusiness.school. Come with me in January on the adventure of a lifetime and become a coach. Until next time, keep rocking it on your dry adventures. Your coach, Andy.